Sue?
Mike!
Sue?
Mike, where are you?
Ah! The horror!
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
My name is Kris Slakter,
I'm Michael O'Rourke.
and this is The Horror. Thanks for joining us today.
In this video, we'll be talking about scary stories to tell in the dark.
Woo! Scary shit.
From André Øvredal, the director of Troll Hunter and The Autopsy of Jane Doe, comes Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. In 1968, a group of teenagers go into a so-called haunted house on Halloween in Mill Valley, Pennsylvania. Inside the house, they discover a secret room and a book of horror stories written by Sarah Bellows. Little do they know, the book is still currently being written by the ghost of Sarah Bellows. And what happens in the book also happens in real life. Will our characters survive, or will a deranged ghost kill them all?
Whoa.
I have some mixed feelings about this movie. What about you, Sue?
I felt a little bit disappointed about this film. Admittedly, I did not know until about 5 minutes into the movie that it was PG-13, and it really feels like a movie that is designed for teenagers.
See, I don't have a problem with it being PG-13 because I understand it's coming from children's books, and so I get that. My issue is the story they decided to write for it and how unfocused it is.
I think that's fair as well. I was a big fan of the original series, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. It really freaked me out. Lots of sleepless nights. And I was hoping to have the same kind of experience from this film. Instead, I kind of felt like it was a letdown, I'm sorry to say.
The story in this, I felt, was very derivative of a lot of other current horror properties out there, like It, Stranger Things, and things like that, where you just have a group of kids getting together and having to solve whatever the problem is, scary clown or ghost or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's not that this is a bad way to go with the story. I just feel like I'm being inundated with it right now. Like, more children fighting together against this one scary thing, and I'm like, ah.
Children in a different time period, no less. Like, just like all these other things.
Yeah.
Although they didn't go with the 80s this time. They went with the 60s, which I thought was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I felt like it being in the 60s actually added anything more to the film. I think that it didn't really matter so much what time period it took place. I'm not really sure why that was pertinent, actually.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like the only reason was to have one of the characters be a draft dodger. But,
oh, yeah, that's right.
But that was it. But it doesn't have anything to do with anything. And I think that's my main gripe with this movie, is that the plot is very unfocused. You have the character of Ramon, who is visiting the town, and nobody knows who he is or where he came from. And so he's kind of a mystery. And he turns out to be a draft dodger. But so what? Like, there's no reason to have that in this movie. There's another subplot where he experiences some racism from the town because he's Hispanic. And again, they set this up, and then there's no follow-through with it.
No.
Like, it doesn't go anywhere, and I thought it was going to, so I was really confused that they just dropped that subplot halfway through the movie. And also the relationship with the main character, Stella, and her father. Maybe Stella's dad was going to get involved with the plot somehow, and he never does.
Definitely. I felt like there was a mistake in trying to introduce these plot threads as if this was going to develop the characters. But it didn't. It was very ineffective. The film also has this really kind of cartoony, over-the-top feel. Again, in that way where it feels like it was made for a younger audience.
I got the goods, so let's banana split.
And just to be clear, it's not that I have a problem with all PG-13 horror movies. It's just that I feel like most of the good PG-13 horror movies that I've seen revolve around ghosts, which this one does, but there's not a lot of spooky sort of elements in it where I feel like, is the ghost going to be lurking around this corner? A feeling that I'm really invested in what the ghost wants. It just felt very predictable. It was kind of a letdown for that reason. I wanted to be scared by this movie, and instead I just felt more like, meh.
I got really bored in between when the monsters were attacking our main characters because, again, with the unfocused plot, nothing was driving the narrative forward except for the creature attacks.
Yeah.
And so I found myself just waiting around, waiting for the next monster attack, because nothing in between was very interesting to me.
I agree. I felt like the movie started getting better as soon as the kid hid himself in the wardrobe and then came out and saw the old lady and the dog. That's when I was like, okay, whoa. Something is happening. Look, something is happening. There's some dialogue in this movie that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. And it's in relation to the haunted house that the kids are going into. So when they enter the house, I'm pretty sure that they're making the point that, hey, this is a haunted house that's really scary and nobody has ever been in here before. It's been locked up for all of these years.
Then some kid went missing, so they boarded it up.
But then there's a line where they say,
How have we never seen this before?
it doesn't make any sense. They said they'd never been there. Why would you have seen it before?
That feels like a result of maybe some script rewrites.
Yeah.
Because they did have to build this story from scratch, because the original books don't have this story.
Yeah, there's no running narrative in all of the original books. It is a series of scary short stories. I also noticed in this movie that there were some weird cuts, some weird editing choices. It didn't feel like it was stylistically done. It just actually felt like some things didn't match up in the movie. Did you notice anything like that?
Yeah, I had a lot of problems with pacing in this movie, where there were parts that felt like they were going on way too long. And I think they were trying to build suspense, but instead all they were doing was just making the movie drag on longer.
At the beginning, I felt like that was when there were a lot of cuts where you might see a kid and they're outside their house. Now they're inside their house. Now they put on some of their makeup. It just felt like there were things that were jumping around. But then, like you said, then there are other times when it's like, all right, are we done with this yet?
Yeah.
Is this scene over? Can we move on? Can we see something more important?
Mom, it's fine.
No, it's not. Still a little loose in the crotch.
It takes a long time before they actually get to the haunted house, because
Yeah.
they have to get the characters together, and then they have to meet Ramon, and then they just decide randomly, hey, want to go see a haunted house after bullies were chasing us? And
Why not?
yeah, like none of these things connect to each other, which gives the movie a very disconnected feel.
I agree.
So I have to say Zoe Margaret Colletti in this movie playing Stella, I believe she gave a really believable performance. She showed a great range of emotions.
I'm gonna have to disagree with my friend here this
Really?
time. Honestly, it's not about this specific actor. It was that I felt across the board that a lot of the acting seemed not super realistic or believable.
This could be our last Halloween together.
I don't want to blame the actors because I feel like there were so many problems with the script that I didn't really like. There were so many problems with the way it was shot, as we've mentioned.
Get all the eggs and teepee you can and meet us at 7.
I felt like the acting could have been grounded in a lot more realism, and instead it felt yuck to me a lot of times.
I felt that way about most of the other performances. Her performance to me stood out as being a little bit above that, especially when her dad calls her on the phone when she's at the police station and the exchange that they have. Dean Norris helps that scene out a lot. He's always reliable no matter what he's in. I think all the actors were fine, but the script really lets them down in a lot of ways.
You said we'd go out for dinner. You and me.
How about some dessert?
I know for certain that the kid who plays the bully is a fantastic actor because I've seen him on HBO's Euphoria, and he's awesome. He gives a really great performance on that. But in this movie, it just felt sort of stereotypical and...
What?
Oh, I'm a bully. I'm a bad guy. I'm coming to get you.
Everyone needs to get out.
See, I liked his performance in this movie because he was so over the top as the bully. I wanted to see more of him, and I was a little sad that he got turned into a scarecrow so quickly in the movie.
No, we need more action, more quickly, more death.
Well, and that's another problem with the story is that they could have had this bully as another antagonist in the movie, a secondary antagonist, but they get rid of him right away. He's the first one to get killed.
That's a good point.
What the hell, movie?
Be better, movie. Be better.
So I enjoyed the costume design and the set design in this movie. It looked in my unprofessional eyes, pretty accurate to the period that they were trying to go for.
Yeah, that was a nice element.
Yeah, so I enjoyed like the set design and the costumes and everything.
Even the Halloween costumes themselves were very indicative of that time. They even make a point about some of the kids' costumes being kind of wonky.
I said Spider-Man, not Spider-Man.
Be happy the Lord provided.
Why, Mom? They had a lot of nice long shots where you could clearly see what was going on. A lot of shots where they back up, so like I know exactly what's happening. It really felt like they tried to go for that older film aesthetic.
There's a part before Augie's death scene where he's sporting some serious toe. I really like his death scene. I actually felt kind of sad for his character. I didn't feel super attached to anybody until that moment. And then I was like, oh no, the toe, the eyeball. And he's pulled into the abyss in this really awesome way.
I really like the Scarecrow, the first one we see. His movements were disturbing. It almost looked like he was walking, but he wasn't walking. Yeah, even the sounds you hear as he's moving around, the rustle of the hay, and you know that kid is screwed.
I really liked how the kid started turning into a scarecrow.
Yeah.
That looked cool. I was actually positively freaked out when I saw the woman with pale skin and dark hair. Ooh, that actually gave me the heebie-jeebies. That night after watching the movie, I woke up to go to the bathroom and I was like, don't think about her, don't think about her, don't think about her. Oh shit, I'm already thinking about her.
And then the spiders coming out of that unfortunate girl's face. And then the weird dismembered guy at the end.
He can never quite seem to get it 100% right, though.
Yeah, that one got a little too CGI for me in some parts. But I don't know how else you would do that effect.
It was an interesting idea. The design of the creatures was something that brought me a lot of happiness because, especially with the woman with pale skin and dark hair, she looked very much like the original art from the books, and that was deeply satisfying. I very much like that art style, and I thought that it was an essential aspect of this movie to try to incorporate that into the creature design as much as possible. So the very end of the movie. They set it up for a sequel. I don't know who thinks there's gonna be a sequel of this movie. I'm not into it.
Obviously, they want a sequel. I really feel like it's a slap in the face for filmmakers to leave your film open with no closure when a sequel is not guaranteed. Like, make your first film a standalone film, beginning, middle, and end story, it's closed. If it does well enough, then you can make an open-ended sequel. Don't do it on the first one.
Please.
I really hate that.
Yeah.
And it just makes the movie an incomplete story, and it's pointless to watch now because it doesn't end.
I don't see it having a sequel, so one random thing that I want to say about this movie is that in watching it, it really reminded me of Jumanji. This is like the Jumanji of high school horror, and it's because you have, instead of a game, you have a book that kind of summons these monsters out, and it's always something that you're really personally freaked out by in some way. That was just something that I thought was funny. It probably wasn't intentional, but it really made me think about Jumanji.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think about that while watching it. Overall, mixed feelings about the movie. I think it's a good-looking movie. I think the story is weak. Some of the cast is good. Some of the cast is not so good. I don't think it's the actor's fault, unfortunately. Yeah. I think it's script issues. And but it did have some nice, outstanding monster effects and some monster moments.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I saw it, but I don't need to watch it again.
I 100% agree. It's always hard to say, hey, we didn't really like this film, but hopefully we at least kind of picked it apart enough to explain the reasons why we had mixed feelings about it. Thanks for tuning in with us today, everybody. Kragah!
What?